We're going to skip Hay because I said we're not going to do all of the Iggeres Hakodesh. Some of them are quite mystical. So we're going to move on to Vav, which is on page 218. Okay, 218. You see it. Iggeres Hakodesh Vav. Again, he starts this off with a pasuk in Mishlei. V'zerei tzedakah secher emes. Literal meaning is he who zereya plants tzedakah. Secher. Now here the vowelage is different. Usually it's schar. Here the pasuk is secher. Secher emes has a reward of truth. Someone who plants tzedakah has a reward of truth. So the Alter Rebbe explains, Pirush, this means, what don't we understand? Why does the Alter Rebbe have to tell us what it means? Sheschar zriyas tzedakah, he says this means that the reward for planting tzedakah is midas emes, is the attribute of emes. Oh, so the Alter Rebbe is telling us here, really there's two ways of understanding, of interpreting this pasuk. You can say, planting tzedakah, the reward is emes. Or you can say, in other words, as he just told us, the reward is the attribute of emes. Or in other words, emes is the reward. Or you can say, the reward of truth, or truth is the reward. Play on words, but it's a very different thing. The reward, whatever the reward will be, it will be a truthful reward. It won't be a fake, transient reward. You know, you take, for example, there are certain things that if we eat them, they taste good, they're all very nice, but they're not going to really, we're still going to be hungry afterwards. You can't really consider it food. It's not emes, like a food. It didn't satisfy what I needed to satisfy. I drank, you know what they say, if you drink sugary drinks, it's not going to quench your thirst. You still get water, which tastes nothing, but that will quench your thirst. But everyone goes and buys it in a hot day, go and buy a cold bottle of Diet Coke. Because the commercials show it, schwitzing, oh, this is amachaya, this is going to really make a person quench one's thirst. And it won't. Regular Coke has sugar. The sugar actually makes you even more thirsty, but plain water will. Right? So there is, what we're saying over here is that there's the reward of truth or a truthful reward. The simple meaning is that that what's going to be is they will give secher emes, will give you a reward, which is a truthful reward, not the transient reward. The Alter Rebbe is saying it means a deeper meaning. Sheschar zriyas tzedakah is midas emes. The actual attribute of emes itself is what's going to be given, which we're going to learn in this letter what exactly that means. What does it mean, the attribute of emes? But this is the alternate interpretation that the Alter Rebbe is giving over here, and that's why he says pirush. In addition to the simple meaning that there will be a truthful reward, he's telling us the reward will be truth. Now, what do we know about truth? See, we have a pasuk in the very last verse of the book of Micha. We say it in the Haftarah of Shabbos Shuvah, and again on Yom Kippur by Mincha, the very end of the Haftarah. The very last words is Titein emes liYaakov. You give truth to Yaakov. That again, he's giving the midas ha'emes from above to Yaakov. So the Alter Rebbe says, "Shvacha de kutshabricha hu masad novi." That over here, the Novi Micha is speaking about the shvach, the praises of kutshabricha of the Eibishter, because of the Zeir Hakodesh, as the Zohar says. In other words, this isn't a pasuk which is petitioning or requesting from the Eibishter, Titein, please give the emes of Yaakov, but rather that he, like in the previous pasuk, it's not asking for the emes, but it's giving. Titein, you will give the emes of Yaakov. Pirush, Hakodesh Baruch Hu haneisin midas emes leYaakov. This means that it's the Eibishter who's giving the midas emes, the attribute of emes, to Yaakov. So here we have the very basic question. V'tzarich lahavin. V'chein emes leYaakov chas v'shalom. What, Yaakov doesn't have emes? Chas v'shalom. He doesn't have emes to the extent that Hakodesh Baruch Hu yitin milamayla, to the extent that the Eibishter has to give him emes from above. What's going on over here? If you say the Pirush is that he's going to give an emes reward, a reward that is emes, fine. So Yaakov Avinu is going to get a reward, which is a very, not a transient, not a short-term reward, but a reward that's going to be emes. Emes means always. So fine, we don't have a problem. But if, as we're saying in our pasuk here in Mishlei, that the reward is emes, so what does that mean? Yaakov doesn't have emes, and now Abish is going to give him emes. What is it that he's giving him? What is it that Yaakov is lacking that Abish has to give him? And it's called emes. What is this emes that Yaakov is lacking that Abish has to give him? Okay, so here the Alter Rebbe is going to go into this explanation now. However, it's well known, meaning that I taught it to you already, and he hopes we remember it. In Perik Mem Hey and Tanya. The Midas Yaakov, Midas Rachmanis. That the Midah of Yaakov, Avram is Chesed, we know. Yeah? Do we know? Avram is the attribute of Chesed, Yitzchak is the attribute of Gvura, and Yaakov is Tiferes. Tiferes is Rachamim, otherwise known as, aka Rachamim, also known as Rachamim. Compassion. Avram Avinu served the Eibishter with Chesed, Yitzchak served him with Gvura, and Yaakov served the Eibishter with Rachamim. What does it mean serving the Eibishter with Rachamim or with Rachmanis? So Avedas Hashem b'midas Rachmanos, the service of the Eibishter through Rachmanos means, where does that come from? How do you serve the Eibishter with Rachmanos? Who are we having compassion on? I remember we did this in the Iggeres Tshuva as well. The Alter Rebbe explained it there at length, so this should be familiar if you joined us for those classes. But he's explaining here, what is the Rachamim? Which part of us needs compassion? Upon who is it? Who's the Rachmanis case in our lives? You remember? There's a part of me which is a bitter Rachmanis that I have to take compassion over. That's over my neshama, because my neshama is imprisoned in a goof, in my body, with all the distractions of the body. So I have to take compassion on my neshama. Remember that? We did that in the Iggeres Tshuva. So it says, Avodas Hashem Midas Rachmanos, He haba, this comes from where? Mehis Eredus Rachamim Rabim, by awakening, by arousing a tremendous Rachamim, Belev ha'adam, a profound compassion, Belev ha'adam, in the heart of a person, over compassion on who? Al nitzutz lekus shebenafshe, on the godly spark that's in his nefesh. Why does this godly spark need the person's compassion? It's a godly spark. What's the problem here? That the godly spark is in need of compassion. Because this godly spark, this nitzutz lekus, is distant from the Eir Pnei Hashem, from the light of the countenance of the pnimius of the Eibishter. Why is it far? It's far whenever the person goes about b'cheshech, in the darkness of heavenly ha'ilam, of the vanities of the world. That when the person allows himself to go and follow what the Nefesh Habam is, and the whole, we know the whole thing, it drags the Nefesh Elikis further and farther and further away from Eir Pnei Hashem, from the light of the Eibishter. The Neshama, before it came down, was attached and was one and basked in the glory of the Eibishter. Then the Neshama had to come down into this world, into a goof, which is already a problem for the Neshama. It's a foreign place. And then this goof takes it to places and situations where the Neshama is suffering tremendously. So as soon as we realize that, we should start feeling compassion for our Neshama. So how are we going to feel that compassion? The awakening, the arousal of this Rachmanis, again, like we did before, the love of Hashem comes from Tvuna and Das. The understanding of how grave is the Rachmanis on our Neshama also comes from Tvuna and Das, by understanding and contemplating the greatness of Hashem. The more we understand and contemplate the greatness of Hashem, the more love we will have for Him, as we did in the previous letter. in letter Daled. And again, here he's telling us the more understanding, Tvuna and Das, we have in the Eibishter, the more we're going to realize the godless of Hashem, the greatness of Hashem. How great is he that even the supernal worlds, the upper worlds, and not just upper worlds, the next floor above us, but the upper worlds, up and higher, ad ein kates, limitless. All of them are considered as nothing, as insignificant as naught before him. We get excited with upper worlds and higher worlds, and on a yard site we say the neshama should have an aliyah, and it goes up to a higher level, and it's a wonderful, tremendous thing. To him, to the Eibishter, all of that is totally insignificant. Keloi mamash. It's considered as nothing. Chashivi considered kamei before him. The more we understand and learn about Elikus, the more we realize that all of those things to him, he is above and beyond all of that. To us, these are significant levels, and higher and more special and more special. And that's for us, that gives us an understanding of the greatness of the Eibishter. What gives us another angle to the greatness of the Eibishter is that to him it's absolutely nothing. It's insignificant. He's so much greater than that. Kikol shifam v'chayusam, because all of these elemis, all of these heavenly, whatever it is that we're familiar with in the heavens, whatever you've learned in Chassidus and Kabbalah, Atzilus and Bria, all the elemis, and Eden Seif and Tzimtzum, or whatever, all the terms that you are familiar with, whatever it is that we know, they are insignificant to the Eibishter. Why is that? Because Kichol Shifam v'Chayusam, because all of their flow of energy, Ein Rak Miziv, top of the page, Ein Rak Miziv v'Ha'ara Me'ois Echad Mishmei Yizbarach. They are nothing more than a glimmer, a ray, and not a glimmer and a ray from the Eibishter, but a glimmer and a ray from his name. And not just a glimmer and a ray from his name, but a glimmer and a ray from Ois Echad, from one letter of Shemoi Yizbarach, of his name. Remember, we spoke a lot about the Eibishter's name in the Iggeres HaTshuva. Over there, the Alter Rebbe says, that it brings from the Zohar, that Teshuva is Toshuv Hey, to return the Hey in the Yud Kei Vav Kei. And we explained then, what is a name, right? Let's stop for a moment. What's the significance? What's a name? Can you live without a name? You can't live without oxygen, right? So you have to breathe. You need food, so you ate breakfast today, I hope, right? You need sleep, so you slept, right? There are certain things that we need. Do you need a name? Would you not survive without a name? If your parents wouldn't have named you, would you not be able to be, would you still be sitting here today? Yeah. What's the name? The name is something which is external to you completely. The only reason you need a name is because they need to differentiate you from other children.
Our names are destiny.
Oh yeah? That's a nice bumper sticker, but what does that mean?
It means that everything's mapped out in the name we're given. It's all hashgacha process.
Okay, that's really something else. Okay, fine. That's on a mystical level. I'm talking on a practical level, on the most practical level. My parents gave me a name for two reasons. Because in Mitzvah Hashem, they're going to have more children. You got to differentiate between them. So they could have called me one, and they called my brother two. But there's a second reason, because then I'm going to go to school, and there's going to be other ones and twos and threes. How are you going to differentiate between them? So they had to give me a name. In fact, in my class, I had a cousin who had the same name. So there was Avraham 1 and Avraham 2. Kievman, right? The point is, a name is not vital to our existence. It's a label. In fact, we have many different names. You think, how many names do you have? You think you have one or two names? No, you don't. Because your names change. Right now, your name is, you can call it student. You're learning. Or your name is Zoom client. Later, if you're going to go to the bank, you're an account holder. And when you're going to go to the dentist, you're a patient. And when you're going to speak to your children, you're a mother. And when you speak to your husband, or you speak to you're a wife, you're an uncle, you're an aunt, you're a child, to your parents, right? We have many different names. In other words, the names that we have express what we're doing. All right? We had a quote a few weeks ago. The Alter Rebbe quoted here. With the Moshe Rabbeinu asked the Eibishter, "What's your name?" And what did the Eibishter say? Lifi ma'aseh ani nikra. According to my actions, that's what I'm called, depending on what I'm doing. All right? No, it wasn't here. It was in Basi Legani. Basi Legani never brings it down. Basi Legani, 1981. The Eibishter says, according to what I'm doing, that's what I'm called. So a name is really chitzenius. A name is external to who we are. And the same thing applies to the Eibishter. His names are external to him. That's why we say at the end of Aleinu, the Pasuk says that what's going to happen, one of the things that's going to happen when Mashiach comes, V'hoya Hashem lemelech al kol haaretz. The Eibishter will be king over the whole world, over the whole earth, the whole land. Vayemahu, what's going to happen by Yemahu? Yeah. Everybody remember this. We say the men are busy folding the talis already, and some of the women are already preparing the kiddush in the ladies' guild. Who pays attention to the last pasuk of Aleinu? And the Avelim are about to say kaddish, so they're not paying much attention. What's the meaning of the last pasuk? Oy Hashem lamelech al kol haaretz b'yemo yeh Hashem echad u'shmoi echad. What does that mean? Hashem will be one, and His name will be one. The name, as it stands now, is, as we said, it's what the Eibush is doing. The name is an external thing. It's a description. It's not an essence. What's going to happen then is Hashem and His name will become one. So the point is, the name is something external. What's the Alter Rebbe telling us over here? You want to have an appreciation of how distant and how insignificant the Eilumes are, even the supernal Eilumes in the heavens and all the spiritual levels. You want to have an inkling of an idea how far they are from the Eibishter himself and how naught, how keloi they are. So he says again, Kikol shifam v'chayusam, because the whole shefa, the flow of chayus, of energy to them, first of all, Einirak mizivar, only comes from a glimmer, an array, from Eis and from the Eibishter. It's first of all, it's a glimmer and a ray. And from where? Not from the Eibishter even, but from Eis Echad Mishmoi, from His name, and not just from His name, but from one letter of His name, Yisbarach. A glimmer of an array from a letter of His name of the Eibishter. That's how far away it is. That's how insignificant it is. K'mayim, as it's written, B'yud Nivrei Eilam Haba. They've created Eilam Haba with a Yud. Eilam Haba is with a Yud. Lower than that is already from other letters, lower letters of the Eibishter's name. So the spiritual world comes from the Eibishter's Yud. So this is the letter of the name that we're talking about. The Yud is a very small letter. And here we're saying that from the Yud of the Eibishter's name, there's a ray and a glimmer, and that ray and glimmer is what gives the energy to all of the Seder Shtalshalos, what we know as Seder Shtalshalos, to all of the whole mareches, the whole structure of the spiritual world. How powerful is this ray and glimmer? This radiation and this ray and glimmer, this is the ispashtos, the extension of the chayus, of the energy, mishmei yizbarach, from the Eibishter's name. This is what's used. It is this ray, which is an extension of the Eibishter's name. This is the energy that's used to animate, to give chayus, to make alive elyonim and tachtenim, the upper worlds and the lower world. In Gashmias, when you have to power a very big machine, so you need a greater battery, you need a greater energy, greater power. Sometimes you have to pull in a different type of electric line to be able to power up a very powerful machine. It's not just going to work by plugging it into the wall. It will blow a fuse. It demands too much energy. Here is saying that as big and as profound and as great as the whole structure of Seder Shtalshalos, including our world, as great as that is, the energy is merely from a ray and a glimmer of a letter of the Eibishter's name. The more we use our tvuna and das to realize and understand and appreciate what that means, the greater we're going to appreciate the godless Hashem. That's what he's telling us here. So again, when we're talking about this, the ray and glimmer, which is merely, as we said, an extension of the chayus to energize and to animate the Yenu Tachtenim. So this ray and glimmer, It is because of this ray and glimmer that there is a hefresh between, there's a difference, a distinction between the Elyenim and the Tachtenim, between the higher and the lower beings. Because the Yud, we just said, is what created the Elyenim, and She'ilam Hazeh Nivra Behei. But as far as this world is concerned, the Gemara continues over there, Beyud Nivra Ilam Habo, and Ilam Hazeh is Nivra Behei. And this world was created with the letter Hey. So it's getting even less. The Yud Kei Vavke is the Eibish's name. We said that the Eibush is called by what he's doing. What is the word Yud? So in other words, each name is a verb. What does the word Yud Kei Vavke mean? Anybody know? What is Havaya? What is the meaning of the word Havaya? Havaya comes from the word Mehave. Creating, making it happen. Mehave. So Havaya is, he is the one who's making everything happen. So he's called Yud Kei Vavke when he's making things happen. So it's a name of God in his creative capacity. And the Olam Haba was created from the Yud of that name. And Olam Hazeh, the energy that comes from the Eibush of the ray and the glimmer. When we say energy, we mean here the ray and the glimmer. Is from the Yud, is created the upper worlds. And the energy, the ray and glimmer that's from the Hay, is what's created this world, this lower world. So this is the difference in general terms between the higher and lower worlds. He goes now even more specific. Let's zoom in into our world. Let's zoom into details. So to all the various details that there is within each world is Hulafi Shinuye Tzirufi Yesis. The Alter Rebbe is telling this a long-winded sentence over here, the whole page, for us to be able to begin to appreciate, to have material with which to use our Tvuna and Das to recognize the greatness of the Eibishter. Remember why he's telling this to us? So we should appreciate and realize the tremendous Rachmanis that is on our Nefesh Elikis. That's what we're doing here now. So he's launching into this lengthy explanation to give us some sort of idea, or at least give us material for us to be able to meditate on and think about, to realize and appreciate the greatness of the Eibishter. So first thing he says that it's a ray and a glimmer from the name. And from the Yud comes Elam Haba, and from the Hay is from the lower worlds. Now within each world, the various differences that there is within each world, all the variety of details within each world, how does that happen? From one Yud comes so many differences. From one Hay can be so many differences. This is already determined by the shinuye, the differences in the tzirufei esis, in the combinations of the letters through which they are created. Okay, what does that mean? So the Alter Rebbe discussed this at length in Shar Yichud Ve'emunah, which perhaps we'll get to one day. In short, what it means is like this. We have A, B, C, and in other languages you have other letters, whatever it may be. There's no significance to them. That's what, by convention, a society has agreed that this here is called a CUP. And that four-legged thing in the field is called a horse. Society could have said that this should be called a horse and that should be called a cup. There's no difference, makes it. It's just that we've all agreed that this is a cup and that's a horse. So there's no significance to the CUP or to the HORSE, right? It's not significant. Lashon Hakodesh is the Eibishter's language. It's not just letters which make words. Every letter has significance. It's the Eibishter's language, so it's all the likus. So there's very deep significance in each letter. So when the Samach Vav Samach makes the horse, the sus, and the Chav Vav Samach makes the kais, the cup, and there's only one letter difference between them, that's a significant thing, because there's a difference between a Chav and a Samach. There's many books written explaining the Jewish alphabet and the significance and how it works, Api Kabbalah, Api Chassidus. So the point is that Lashon HaKodesh is as what it says. Lashon HaKodesh, it's the holy tongue. Therefore, every word has different energies in it, depending on what the letters of that word is composed of. So, for example, there's a Rashi brings it, and there's a Medrash that says that when the Eibishter created Adam, so he called Adam Rishon. The Eibishter put all the animals before Adam Rishon, and Adam Rishon gave them names. So he called the horse a sus, and he called the ox a sher. So you ask, what's the big chachma over here? How does this express the great wisdom of Adam? They didn't have names yet, so you can call it what you want. So he called a horse a horse. He called an ox, shkech. What's the big deal? The big deal is that Adam Rishon had the insight to be able to look into this creature and see its spiritual DNA and recognize that this creature's spiritual DNA is what? Samach Vav Samach. And this creature's spiritual DNA is Shin Vav Reish, Sher, what we call an ox. And if he was to mix them up, then there would be a problem. Just as there's a physical DNA, which is a series of numbers, so too spiritually as well. So that's the significance of the Lashon Hakodesh of the letters. And therefore, when the letters are changed around, it creates different things. So in Shara Yichud V'Emunah, the Alter Rebbe explains to us that in Bereshis it speaks about 10 utterances. B'Asorim Amoris Nivra Olam, Pirkei Avos says, right? With 10 utterances, Hashem created the world. Let there be this, let there be that, let there be this, 10 times. There's more than 10 items in the world, right? So how from these 10 utterances of Hashem, those words, how from that was created the infinite? Well, it's not infinite. The world is limited, but to us, it's uncountable the amount of stuff and things that there is in the world. How is it done? How's that done? So the Alter Rebbe says that comes from the interchanging of the sirufei ha'osiyos. What do you refer to over here now? Shinuyei sirufei ha'osiyos is the combination of the letters. So from the various combination of the letters with which the Eibishter used in creating the world, and these 10 utterances, different combinations of the letters created all the different nuances and the different things, and this is what we have, this whole world with all of the various details that there is in the world. So the Eibishter said, Tachi ha'aretz desha, let the earth sprout forth growth. And from that comes all the various species of growth, the colors, everything else that's involved in them, the medicine that's within the different types of growth, the shape, the size, the trees, the grass, anything that grows from the ground was included in that original one short statement of let the earth produce growth. But
Stephen, I thought you said it's just with the hay Olam Hazeh it was created. So where does all the other letters come into being? When did we know that those other letters came? What does it mean that just with the letter Hey, Olam Hazeh was created?
From the letter of Hey, he just told us, like the letter of Yud, he told us that this is where the energy comes from. The energy to energize all of the worlds. Now, the specific variations that there is in all the worlds, I'm saying here is, that he's telling us is, that's already from the Tzirufei ha'osiyos with which the Eibishter created the world. From the combination of letters and words with which he used to create the world. Where are those letters and words? In the Asorim Amoris. Now, what's the energy that keeps it all existing? That's from the Hey of Yud Kei Vav Kei.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So this is what he means over here when he says Shinuyei Tzirufei ha'osiyos. Okay, that's a short overview of what the Alter Rebbe explains at length over there in Shara Yichud V'Emunah. You understand? It's not complicated, right? It's use the example of DNA and different things. So the letters themselves, what's important over here is to understand is that the letters, unlike any other language, the letters themselves are very potent and have energies to them. And therefore, when you put different energies together, like in any chemistry class, you put different chemicals together, you'll have different reactions. Put different letters together, you'll have different reactions, and that's why we have this world. So he says, so to all the various details, the changes in the pratim, the variation in the pratim, which is they are all dependent or determined. They are all determined by the differences in the combination of the letters. That's one factor which allows for the variation in the words. Then there's other factors. And also shinuyei hazman in ba'avar. So to the distinction between past, present, and future. Vishinuye kol hakodesh, and the variety, the changes in the variety in all of the events, b'chilufei hazmanim, and all of that kodesh means all the happenings, all the events that happen throughout chilufei hazmanim, the changings of time. All of these things, past, present, and future, and all of the events that happen during all of those changes, during those times, and as a result of the changes, everything, hakel, everything comes from Shinuye Tzirufei Eisis. All of these are determined by the differences in the combinations of the letters. The Rebbe would speak many times, for example, that there are different combinations of Yud Kei Vav Kei, and each one of the 12 months have a different order of the Yud Kei Vav Kei. Shvat, we're holding in Shvat. If I remember correctly, the Rebbe spoke that the combination of Yud Kei Vav Kei here is Homer Yemirenu V'Hoyahu. We just did in Rambam. If you did doing Sefer Mitzvahs, we just finished Hilchas Tmura. Yesterday, we made a siyum on that Sefer. The Hilchas Tmura, which is the laws of exchange, and over there the pasuk says about that Homer Yemirenu, that if he changed it, then this exchange is also holy, because you're not supposed to do an exchange. So if you did an exchange of an animal that was meant to be a carbon, you exchange it with another animal, then both animals are now holy. But anyway, the pasuk over there says V'homer Yemirenu V'hoyahu, and the first letters of those 4 words is Yud Kei Vav Kei, Vav Yud, and then Hey Yud, Hey Vav. No, V'homer Yemirenu V'hoyahu. Homer Yemirenu V'hoyahu. That's right. Hey Yud Vav Hey. So that's another way of writing Yud Kei Vav Kei. Hey Yud Vav Hey. So for the month of Shvat, the order, the energy that the Eibush is giving to the world is through Hey Vav Yud Hey. Not Yud Kei Vav Kei, but this month it's Hey Vav Yud Hey. Another month it's a different pasuk. Right? That's what he's telling us over here. Not just that everything that Hashem created is from the differences in the combination of the letters and the words, but everything, time, past, present, and future, and all the changes in time is also as a result of these different combinations of the letters. That's why, for example, another example, the Alter Rebbe tells us that every year in Rosh Hashanah there's a new light which comes down into the world. What's the new light? A new energy. A new energy means that there's a new combination of the letters. I don't know very much about the technology, but there's an encryption in computers, right? And when you encrypt it, so then it stops hackers from being able to get in, because the numbers are always changing. And therefore, it's very difficult to be able to hack and break into that encryption. And that's what we're saying over here. The Eibusher's energy of the world comes through his different changes of his different, the encryption of the different letters with which he creates the world. Okay, we're going to continue next week, and we'll understand what he's aiming for, what he's trying to get to us over here. But the general point he's trying to tell us, explain to us here, is to understand greatness of the Eibusher, and then we will have a proper Rachmanus in our Neshama. Okay. Have a good week, everybody. Any questions?
Okay, thank you. It's hard to actually understand beyond the words. I mean, this idea of the DNA, spiritual DNA, I can't quite understand what that means. I mean, I understand the words, but I don't know what lies behind that. So let's take a
mundane example which they give to understand DNA, because DNA is also esoteric. A mundane example to understand DNA is, if I forgot to put salt in my challah dough,
doesn't work.
The dough will bake a challah, but it will be missing salt. But it's not vital. But if God forbid certain DNA is missing, and then the child has the different problems. So depending on the recipe and the ingredients that go into the recipe will be the product that is coming out of it. And then not just what goes into it, but how much goes into it. That's the example they give in school to start an introduction to DNA. The same thing is here with the Eibusher's letters, when things change around. And some recipes, you have to do this first before that.
It makes
do that. What do you mean? Throw everything in. No. First, you can't just throw everything in. First, you got to fry the onions. You can't just put the onions in.
So it's all the essential ingredients to make it what it is.
So the Eibusher's words are the essential, and the letters are the essential ingredients with which he created the world. Yeah.
To make it what it should be.
Sorry?
To make it what it should be or what it is.
What do you mean?
It's not utopia.
Ideal. These are the ideal ingredients. This is the
Oh yeah,
essence.
he gave the ideal ingredients for a world. He gave us the free choice to be able to choose what we're going to do with that world. Sure.
But we can change that. Can we change the spiritual DNA by the things?
That's right. Okay, good. So we'll get into that another time. Yeah, we can. That's what we say. Yehirotzain, and throughout tzedakah, and throughout tefillah. Yeah, we could change that DNA. Correct. Yeah, that's a separate.
We have-
Thanks very much. Thank you.
If we're not